Tokyo Lovehotels podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Tokyo Lovehotels official podcast episode. No
15,
idea.
16.
17, 18,
Yeah.
25. Very happy to be back. So my name is Robin Rastenberger, aka Mr. Loveho.
And I am Kalinlaw, aka Mrs. Loveho.
Yes, and what we do is that we represent artists in Tokyo, hosting an event monthly, depending on the COVIDs, that promote artistry. We provide them with a free platform to sell, to connect, to commercialize, to perform, to
do.
exhibit. A little bit of this and that. Basically, we create a marketplace for artists within Tokyo to sell and be able to live off of their art.
Yes.
And at this podcast, we interview artists that are working with us or that we've had at Loveho's so far, exhibiting or performing. And today we have yet another special guest. And it's a bit of a rare one might say, because we have a lot of artists, a lot of exhibitors. We've never really had
A poet.
a poet. So we call her
Without further ado.
Without further ado, let's introduce the magnificent, the splendid, the clueful
Shan. No. Shelly.
Shelly.
Where did she come from?
She wasn't a plant?
I just got here, guys.
Welcome to the pod station.
Hey, babe.
Thank you for having me.
Could we
Come
get a little bit to
closer.
that? Yeah. Check the vibe. Looking gorgeous. Thank you for joining the pod.
Of course.
Should we begin? Should we begin with the beverage? Would you like some wine?
I would love some more.
Yeah, it's been waiting to do this since
Have you not been drinking?
I have, but not this week yet. So that's a
What is it,
while.
Monday?
Oh yeah.
Let's hit it.
Thank you. Oh, what a good sound.
Yeah.
That
Right.
gurgling.
Oh, I heard that red wine is good for COVID. Did you know this? It was on the news apparently. Somebody, Nagasaki University dude said red wine is good for corona.
Oh, really?
Honestly,
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me.
The polyphenols?
Yeah.
It's probably the only reason I've made it out of this pandemic alive.
Same.
Yes, that's why we're still here.
But I also heard that like alcohol is good for like combating the
Kills
the
the
virus
germs.
because yeah, exactly, it kills the
Really
germs.
though?
Babe, I don't question science.
No, but to a certain extent, I can see that happening. Like my mother told me about something called heart wine, which is, I think you boil red wine with parsley and something else, and you create this kind of concoction / potion that people with heart diseases take daily. And it's supposed to kind of raise the polyphenol levels in your body and work
Live
against
long.
heart attacks and live long. Yeah.
But I guess if you boil it, then you boil the alcohol out of it, no?
True. No.
Like that's what happens when you
Yeah.
cook
Yeah.
alcohol.
So maybe it isn't
What's the
alcohol.
point?
Maybe I should try that. I mean, I guess.
I guess to fight against your heart disease.
Yes. Cheers to heart disease.
True that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome
Kills
here.
millions a year.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's good. Oh, you're drinking wine today.
Yes. It's good. I mean, it is. We do drink from a mug cup, if you have noticed.
Yeah. I was gonna do one of these. But I was like, is there a point?
Swirls. Samuku?
The reason for this, Samukuna.
Oh my god.
The reason for this being that the only merch we have that it's like drinkware are mug cups.
Yeah.
It's a vibe.
I'm surprised you guys haven't made a
It's a
shot
vibe.
glass.
Yeah, we haven't.
We're not into shots.
Oh, we're not into shots.
We're classy.
Sorry.
Well,
You're so classy. You drink wine out of the mug.
It's very classy. Fireplace vibes.
yeah, hot wine works.
Yeah.
So before starting this pod, we were having a little chat about how to introduce you. So I want, because you go by two names. You have correct me if I'm wrong. You have your traditional Chinese name, and then you have the name that like Chinese names also have a foreign. What is it called? Like a foreign version of their name. You have.
Well, I mean, I have an English name just because when I immigrated to Canada from China, I think they had a lot of trouble processing the fact that like there was this new girl like in class and she has this weird name and no one can say it and she's already foreign, so like let's just expedite the whole assimilation process and give her an English name.
I see.
So yeah, so I actually received my English name from my elementary school teacher.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it was actually like, you know, at the time I think it was fine and I think they did it in good conscience, but now when I look back it's kind of offensive, you know?
It's quite offensive.
Like, yeah, like we don't want to put in the effort to learn how to try to say your name, so like we're just going to give you this like, like
And
name
your
No,
after
teacher
definitely.
gave it? Yeah,
That's interesting though, because I remember going to like language school here, and
Oh.
I mean 80%, 90% of the students were Chinese, but all of them had a foreign name, and they would
Yeah.
tell me that they have two names.
Yeah,
Is that a
yeah.
common thing, or is that did everyone get it from their teachers?
I mean, I honestly think that now Chinese people are just acknowledge the fact that their names are inherently difficult to say, like for foreigners. So it's just easier for them to just like adopt another
Okay.
moniker.
And some of them are Christian とかじゃない? Like, I know a lot of Koreans that are like Asian face, but his name's Francis. There was this young kid back in the day. It's so weird.
This
But they're
young
like,
kid.
yeah, Christian.
Like, kira-kira
Christian.
name
They
とかね。
have the Christian Paul とか.
Okay, so they'll add that name as
Yeah.
like a, okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's
I mean,
not
I
your
honestly
case.
no.
No.
Although, like, my family did get involved, like, in the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses for a while, and that was really wild.
That's wild.
Because they prey upon immigrants, Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, because they're vulnerable, you know.
So your
and then-
parents were? They became one?
Yeah, and then they were part of the church.
Oh,
Like
shit.
door knocking,
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause they,
suit
like,
wearing.
Yeah, like they send Chinese-speaking people to like Chinese households so that they can like more easily
Multiply.
captivate them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, come to church, like eat a lemon meringue, like enjoy yourself, like listen to the word of our
And
Lord
were you
Jesus
into
Christ.
it?
I mean, I was so young back
Yeah.
then, but I was obsessed with like Bible study because I was obsessed with my Bible study teacher. And then actually, she like they were like, because you know how like toxic the Jehovah's Witness like religion is. You can get like shut out from the whole congregation just by like doing something
Really?
minor. Yeah, like
Such as?
for example, like my Bible study. My Bible study teacher. I'm so pure, guys. My Bible study teacher, she like apparently somebody saw a shadow of a man in her window one day
Shadow?
at night and reported it to her parents, and her parents just like cut her off, like no communication, like excommunicated her from the congregation. Nobody in the congregation was ever allowed to have contact with her ever again.
That's
Because
fucked
she
up.
saw.
Because like
A
there was
silhouette.
like somebody saw like a male silhouette in her window. And, like,
Someone saw her with someone, like okay.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh my god!" Like
I'm
have
like,
a man.
okay, I understand.
You're like, yeah, like late nights with
Terrible.
men.
Yeah.
Sick.
How could they? Oh, really?
So yeah, it was actually like, and then after that, we were like, wow, these people are horrific. Like,
Horrific.
Let's not do this with them anymore.
And it was you that had the dude over.
Yeah, and now I'm having dudes over all the time. And I don't even have curtains.
Those-
You don't even get the silhouette.
No silhouette. Ding dongs flying about. Right, so getting back to the name, because I really wanted to pronounce your. Do I say original name? Because they're both your names.
Yeah, it's my name. Yeah, my Chinese name.
Your Chinese name. I wanted to
Yeah.
pronounce your Chinese name.
Yeah.
And it is Xiao Yue.
Oh my god, you said small grandfather again.
It sounds really good.
So I can never get it right.
It's funny. I was just talking about this with my friend at lunch today, but it's like if you don't grow up listening to Chinese, it's really hard for like you to hear the differences in the intonations. Like
Right.
for me, it's you know, there's 4 tones and all the 4 tones are very distinct.
Mama.
Yeah, like you just said this. You just like you just said like you just said like 2 tones, but 4 times. But they're
Oh.
like it's
Oh.
ma 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 ma.
Oh my god, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
That's so
but it's
cool.
difficult, like it's difficult. Like in Arabic, has like 1 million, and
Right.
Cantonese has 7, so it's like it's very difficult when we're not ingrained in the language to hear these like very subtle
That's
like
so cool.
musicality.
So how would one pronounce your Chinese name?
Xiao Yue,
Xiao
Yue.
Yue.
Xiao Yue,
Yue.
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 Yue,
Yue.
Yue.
Yue. Ah. Right. Okay.
Yeah, to give you my disdainful expression.
Robin.
Robin.
Yes.
Robin.
I'll give you a Chinese name later. I was
Oh,
giving Chinese
yes.
names to all my friends before.
Oh
Dream.
yeah, I had one before. I forgot.
What was it?
Xiao Yue.
Grandpa.
Oh my god, it was Shawnee.
Wait. Never mind.
Maybe it was.
Aren't you Taiwanese though?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have a Chinese name.
Where did that come from?
What?
Taiwanese? Who told you I'm Taiwanese?
You're not Taiwanese?
No.
Okay. Someone told me you were Taiwanese.
That's dope.
Fatine.
That's not.
Yeah, maybe Fatim. Bitch, she is
No,
not
I'm
your
British.
friend.
Japanese, British.
Oh, you're Japanese.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's blowing my mind right now. I really thought you were. Yeah, okay.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think Law is a common, like,
Chinese?
yeah, like more like Chinese last name, Law.
Maybe. It's actually Lawrence. Sorry.
Less of a common Chinese name.
Yes. It's quite typical.
Oh my god.
Oh my god,
Well-
that's amazing.
I was gonna say get back on track, but get on some kind of track.
Yeah.
You were the first live poetry. How do you even say that? Live poetry reader. Huh?
Rhyme.
We had rhyme before. Well, okay.
That was a show.
It was a show, like a
acting,
music
yeah.
accompanied thing. So, what you did at Lovehotels was you performed with live poetry to music, reading your poetry out loud through the mic. And what I found was the coolest thing is you had these papers with everything written down, and as soon as you were done with one page, you just drop it to the floor like a
Dramatic.
sakura,
Yeah.
leaf, just wallowing down. It was like the coolest thing. Wine in one hand, papers in the other.
Flower on
Where
the
the
heads.
how the fuck were you holding the mic? I don't remember. Just in the mouth. It was a really, really amazing experience, I think, and something we never really had in Love
Yes.
Hotels, in that vibe.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
What led you to this poetry thing, and why are you doing it?
Oh, wow. I didn't think that's where the question was going. You're like, now tell me the history of your
Yeah.
whole life.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know, guys. Do you really want me to get into it?
Yes.
I can get into it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, like, I find that Chinese is inherently a very poetic language because it really encapsulates the visual within like the idea. Because like characters in themselves, they're paintings.
Right.
So I think it's like growing up, learning Chinese, having this very like distinct connection to like the qualities of the language, which like English is kind of missing because English is a purely phonetic language. Like every letter is assigned to a sound, and so words like their sound designators. Like Chinese is not like that, right? Obviously there are like elements in characters that are attached to a certain phoneme, but they're not like just there for that purpose.
Right.
So when I was transplanted into Canada, I still had a lot of coherencies in my Chinese language that needed to like find a place in the English language.
At what age did you go to Canada?
7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
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 Very
The
vital
millennium.
time in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think it was a good time because I heard something where it's like after the age of 9, you stop being able to like absorb language in its entirety. Like you really have to work at it. Like you can't just soak it up like a sponge, the way kids do. Yeah. So so yeah, and then afterwards, like when I was learning English and like processing English and like then started to like live my life predominantly using English, I like there were still kind of these spots of vacancies that I found in the language that weren't like sufficient enough to like hold the content. Like
Right. Beautifully put. Yeah.
yeah, like I mean just for an example, it's like in Chinese, there are so many names for colors that are connected to like physical elements. Like for yellow, you have sand yellow and you have stone yellow, and you have like there's all sorts of these different like central elements to the language. In English, you just have yellow, and when you look at the word yellow, there's nothing to it. Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, drink more water, babes. It shouldn't be that yellow.
Caught me in the act. Yeah.
And I think I very naturally drifted towards poetry in that sense, because English language poetry especially is so about trying to like make this language potent again and make it expressive again. And so I was very lucky in that I found my passion, and I found like the thing that I felt like I was supposed to do in life very, very early on. I've always loved words, and I've always loved books, and so yeah.
How did that turn into poetry though?
Because
And not a writer per se, or like
I mean, yeah, I think it's just like poetry in itself is about getting like the maximum reward out of like a single like short line. So it's about really like fulfilling the potentialities of like every word and like every sound, because it's like poetry is a very like it's about economizing like language. Like you can write a sentence, and like that sentence can like tell you like a statement of fact, but like there's a lot of useless parts of that sentence. It's like, for example, like in English you guys have like articles like the or a. Like in Chinese there's no such thing as the or a.
fillers.
Yeah. And like obviously they have a grammatical purpose, but they're not necessary. And like so it's about poetry is not only about like getting rid of words, but it's also about like realizing that like a word itself, like the boundaries that it sets is not like it's mutable. Like that, like you can have like one word next to another word and then change the order, and then like you can see it in a completely different way. And so it's
cool.
so it's about like sculpting. Poetry is like the culmination of every art form, because it's about imagining, but it's also about forming, and it's also about symbolizing, and also like
And
about
tad
music.
mathematical.
Yeah,
Almost.
yeah, I think so, yeah. And there's so many ways you can do it, like I don't do this, but people do imagist poetry, like people do like found poetry, like people do all sorts of things with language, and like we can call it all poetry, which is amazing.
Was there like a certain event? Doing fantastic. Was there like a certain event in your life where you were like, poetry, this is it? Was there like did you read a certain book, or did you go to class, or was there like what was the the main contributing factor to why you chose to go into poetry in the first place?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's like a lot of young people, like when they go through puberty, have this urge to write poetry. Like, I don't know if you guys ever...
Was forced to in school.
I know I had one.
You had one, right? Like, you probably, like, you're like, when you were feeling really emotional, or when you were feeling really raw, and you knew that, like, poetry was probably, like, the rawest, most emotional form.
There was an online forum. I don't remember what the name was, but it was something emo, like emo related. It was something like vampire... feelings, yeah, like emobloodkids.com, something like that. It was like an online forum, or it could have even been like the Harry Potter forum. It was one of those two.
Yes.
And there was like one section that was like, you read, like, post your own poetry, and I spent so hard trying to figure out like a nice poetic little sentence to post there to get more friends or followers or whatever it was back then.
Yeah, to express your depth.
Yeah. And I managed to write something, and I was very sad. I don't know, some emotion about something, trees and something. And I posted it, and one or two people were like, this is really nice. Good job. Continue. And I couldn't write anything else, so I kept on posting the same one in different forums and in different like threads, just to soak up that kind of gratitude and praise that I would get from people, until a moderator found me. I was like, you can't keep doing this. You're done.
You can't keep scamming people.
First and last poetry. Sorry,
I won a haiku award.
Oh, you did?
Yes, but I didn't actually write it. My sister wrote it and I submitted it. We all had to. I didn't think I was gonna win,
You
but I
fucking
won
scam
the award.
artist.
Yes. It wasn't my forte. And my
Oh,
sister wrote that shit. It was nice. And yeah, we both knew what we were doing. We won it.
Oh my god.
I don't remember it. Carry on.
wow, babe.
Yeah, after like
Wow.
20 years.
Was it like a big prize?
No, it was like within the school.
Oh.
But it was like a.
Was there a monetary
School gonna-
reward?
There was an award, yeah.
Like a diamond?
It was like 3 people win, and like I was one of them. Diamond
There's
China.
no international rich kids.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my god. Oh, you went to one of
No,
the
it
bougie
wasn't
schools?
Bracelet.
anything. No. That's why it's okay.
Was was your sister grateful for the win? Did she take it well?
Probably.
She remembers it. to
She's
this
like,
day.
we're not on speaking terms.
No, she knew.
Yeah, she doesn't even live in Japan anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you chased out of the
I
whole
know.
country.
Snitch this.
Sorry, back to
you.
Yeah, back to you. What was your like? It wasn't
First
an emo
exposure?
forum, yeah.
Oh my god. But yeah, like I said, like a lot of young people like feel this pull towards poetry just because of its emotional nature, and you're just a potion of emotions in that time, and like having an outlet, I think at that like very delicate formative era is really important. And so yeah, like I naturally found poetry like you said, the more emotional stuff like Sylvia Plath, like a lot of people kind of start with, like a lot of female poets I know usually start with Sylvia Plath because like you know, she used language in a way that was very like inherently like high poetry, and it belonged to like a very literary like sphere, but she also did it in a way that like a young girl could read it and see herself like reflected in these spaces, like, you know, like I eat men like air, like these kinds of things. It's
Yum.
like but yeah, and it's like it's just really powerful and it's really quotable. So that's why I think it's like it's very neatly parceled up at that age when you're not really prepared to understand anything. And so yeah, from then on I just like I had an appetite for it, and I found like more and more poets that I really love. Like I've discovered like the New York school, the objectivist school, like George Oppen, Frank O'Hara, like all these really, really important poets that changed the game, and also the classics, you know, Keats, like Shelly, but also it's just it each poet leads you to something else, and it makes you realize like the variations of the form and like how vast the world of letters is. Yeah.
Right.
So it's just like it's something that sustains itself. If you get interested in poetry, like in a really like in a way that you feel like you feel connected to it, then it's very easy to like get sucked into that world because it's so it's really beautiful. It's really powerful. You know, you're experiencing like the world in ways that like other people have prepared for you. Like I don't know, it's really it's hard to describe.
Was it very web based? Was it web based? How you found the poetry in the first place, or was it through like?
You know, I consider myself very fortunate to be one of those children that grew up with the internet as opposed to like after the internet.
Right.
Like, you know, so when I was a teenager, like the internet was still kind of like in the process of becoming like a thing.
The thing.
The thing, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, and so it was still like mostly a place that we used to like plagiarize our essays, and not something that we actually like or like chat with like strange men.
What?
Oh, come on. Don't pretend like
Wait,
you
what?
never
I don't
don't pretend like you're too good to enter a chat room.
Every Sunday.
It's new, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
And so no, it wasn't. It was like it was through like good old fashioned paper. I was fortunate to have like a very, very important mentor when I was in high school.
Did you have to write too in high school? Did
Yeah.
they make you write poems?
Yeah.
Don't it?
Yeah.
And everybody tried to be so corny and like, no?
The way they teach
I
poetry
think I've
in
pushed
high
it
school
aside.
is
I don't remember
criminal.
much of it. Huh?
The way they teach poetry in high school is criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
It's
bad.
so cringy.
It completely saps any of the joy out of it.
Do you write in Chinese too? Chinese poems?
No, but I translate from the Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I think that's interesting, because you mentioned how colorful the Chinese language is, and how the English is kind of lacking a sense of that, and which is why you chose English as your language for poetry. For that reason, to kind of spice it up, rather than going back to Chinese, or.
Mm, but also, I think it's just like my connection towards Chinese is so. It's like I stopped getting like a formal education in Chinese by the age of 7. So obviously my Chinese is not as developed as my English. And in English is where I kind of encountered all of the like the things that I'm interested in now, like cinema and like obviously literature, but also it's like and philosophy and like and so it's the way that I engage with the world in a more like tangible ideological way, whereas Chinese is where I engage the world in a more like intimate and familial way. Like I think it's like so it's like the language that I used to talk to my parents, and it's a like language. I mean, like I do work in it now to some extent, but it's still like it's a very like it's like I call it like the milk language, because it's like what you sustain yourself when you're becoming a person. But English is the language that I used to express myself in more like high level capacities. Like I don't think I'd be able to have a coherent conversation in Chinese about politics or like about philosophy the same way that I would be able to in English, just because it resides in two completely different parts of your mind almost.
What do you usually get inspired to write poetry about?
Hate this question.
Yeah. It's is it typical?
No, it's not.
But I'm curious.
I think it's just because it's like it's really like I think okay, how should I say this? I think the idea that people have about poetry is that it is like a stroke of inspiration, and then you feel the need to like write something, and a lot of times it not a lot of times, but sometimes it is like that, sometimes you're like walking and you see something and it like strikes you and you find a new way to like talk about it. But also most of the times it's just like a lot of sitting and waiting and thinking and just like trying to like actually like manifest the poem. It's like I think there's a beautiful line by this like Chilean author, and she says you show up, and then one day the muse shows up too. So writing a poem is like going to work. It's like it's very laborious, it's very intensive, and it's not inspiring. Like it's just not inspiring. It's like maybe you start with an idea, but most of the times you don't. You start with like a word that interests you, or like a feeling that interests you, and these are not coherent ideas, and then you write, and then if you hit like that like you hit the like the energy, then the poem writes itself almost. It's like a channeling.
Do you think that work ethic is something that relates to all poets in general, or is it like one of a few categories in how to write poetry? I'm thinking from a musician's perspective, because as for me, like I know that a lot of people are like, oh, I have this feeling, I got to put it down into paper, and I make this whole song, and I write it in like 3 minutes, and I'm done.
Yeah, the Taylor Swifts of the world.
Right. Whereas me, for example, I go with this, like I walk around, and if one sentence pops up in my head, I'll write it down, and then I'll come back home like a week later. Where have I been for a week? I don't know. But I'll come back home, and then when I'm ready to write a song, I'll compile. Like I'll find the sentences that I've written down and see which fits which. It's more like a puzzle thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think that's similar to like a lot of the way poets put together poems as well. Just like honestly, a scrapbooking of the world, and it's
artist things, like even artists, like that's what I do with my paintings as well.
Yeah.
Like you have a couple of ideas, and then you just
I write them down, and then puzzle them together. Yeah, go with words.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just like I think all art is it's an interaction between like the artist spirit and also like the essences of the world. So it's like you can't force it, and you can't like coerce it. You can just kind of like hope that it comes to you.
Yeah.
And then when it does, and that you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the thing too, and that's why it's like it's most days it's just like a piece of paper, and then like me, and I'm just sitting there forever.
Really?
Yeah, and then like coming up with nothing, or like coming up with garbage.
Is that like you're like not forcing, but like you're pushing yourself to be there and make it done, or like you don't just hang out and do your thing during the day, and then when it comes to you, it comes to you. You sit down. You make sure you sit down and make it happen.
Yeah, I think if I was just waiting for it to come to me, I would never write anything.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, because like there are things that I feel in the moment that I really need to write about. Like I like for example, I wrote this poem like maybe a couple years back. No, actually in 2016, I believe, but it was like in the aftermath of like a really serious like bombing in Syria by the government forces, and I really felt the need to like write something then, and I did. But it wasn't good. It was raw, you know, it was reactive. Yeah. And then like a couple months later you come back to it, and then at that time it's like you face your inspiration in a different way. You're not at the mercy of in your inspiration, but you're in control of it. Like, because you remember like how it felt in that moment. You were inspired and you had this like raw material, but now you are capable of like forming it and kind of like taking back the fact that you're not just like maniacally like scrawling away, but you're actually like thinking about it, and you're processing it, and you're putting it in context with not only the world and history, but also yourself and your relationship to it.
That's how we should deal with life in general, right?
Yeah, and you said something that really hit me. I think you said it wasn't good, it was raw, it was reactive, which I think speaks very strongly for today's society and today's social justice warriors, and in general anything political or
What was that?
She's shedding.
or crown related. Yeah, she dropped the mic, dropped the leaf. That's what it is, and I think maybe that's something that a lot of people also could learn from various forms of art, whether it's poetry or painting, that something that is just reactive or something that just is raw material isn't necessarily the way to reach out to the other person.
Yes.
It's about the balance. It's about putting these elements together in a well written, well worded phrase, or whether it's musically or words, I don't know, but
and that it's contextualized. It's rightfully contextualized. You know, it's like if you're gonna speak up about something, if you're gonna like throw your voice into like the melting pot of voices and passions, then like your contribution should be productive. Like it should it should be for something, and it shouldn't just be like a signifier of your presence. Like I feel like so many, like what you were saying about like social media activism, it's one of the most frustrating things about being alive and being like a part of social media today. It's that like you see so many people and like so many businesses and so many like entities on the internet just like trying to like throw themselves into like the trend of whatever moral is at the top of the news today, and like just signifying that like, oh, I'm here and I'm aware. And it's like that's all they do. And it's just like, oh no, I know about this too, guys. Like no, like no, trust me, like this really sucks. And it's like yeah, like okay, but like how is this productive at all? Like how is this like forwarding? Anyway.
Right. I think that's also a very interesting discussion in intention versus just doing something because everyone else are doing it. There is a certain sense of gratitude, of course, for people, like whether it's the BLM movement or whether it's about the Syria bombings or whether it's about general like poverty in general. People repost these things whether they're not even aware what the actual situation is about, but they do it maybe not with the right intention, but it still would be able to reach someone that might take it into account and actually would have the intention to move forward and read more about it. But still the original person that reposted this would be someone that didn't even really care, that just wanted to get on the hype. What's right? What's wrong?
Do you?
What do you? It's so complex, I think.
It is so complex.
It's so confusing.
It is.
It's never black and white.
Yeah, but I think it's just like, I think we just have to acknowledge at some point that social media and like bite-sized consumption is just like not the method in which we should be like discussing and like kind of like being a part of these issues, and like kind of like it's just not the right format. The format is antithetical to any sort of like productive thinking. It's like, because you can't, like, there's just no way to properly explain to someone how deep rooted or how multifarious an issue is in like 140 characters or in like a series of 10 images or like a caption. Like it's just not possible. And people aren't on these platforms to like engage in conversations.
And with an attention span of 5 seconds, it's not going to get you anywhere.
It's ridiculous. It's it's innately contradictory. So I don't know. I feel really strongly about this.
That's great. Love it.
Yeah.
What are your goals when it comes to poetry? I'm asking these questions. You don't.
No. You're asking me these questions. I'm thinking about.
Right.
No one ever asked me these questions.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
because
cool,
most of
cool.
you saved it for me.
She was just there. Yeah.
Because most of the time when people want to talk about poetry, they want like it's other poets. So
What do you mean?
like
like
usually only poets
poet
like
to
talking
poet.
about. Yeah,
Not
exactly.
actually like you.
Not like a
what?
normal
So,
person.
like when
like
people
not
talk
a
to
poet.
me about poetry, it's usually another poet. Yeah, like usually non-poets don't like to talk about poetry.
Really?
Or at least not to like not in a really involved way. Like they're interested in
It feels personal as fuck. Like poetry, like writing poetry sounds really personal.
It
but
is, I think.
Yeah, right?
Could it be that we're both artists, but using
Yeah.
different...
No, for
mediums?
sure. It is, but somehow poetry, like even standing in front of the like Love Ho's performance, just standing there and reading your poetry is so raw to me. Like I think that's the most scariest for me. I don't know for you. Maybe like painting for you is like scary for you. I don't know.
Oh well, yeah.
But like stand-up comedy とか live poetry is like I could never do that shit.
And I really see that, especially
feels
from the
raw.
audience's perspective. Even though the poet herself might be nervous or not, it doesn't really matter. I think the audience is the ones that are most nervous because you actually have to put an effort into focusing on the words that are being spelled out in front of you to even
And all you
remotely
got
try
is
to
yourself.
understand what you're going through, and all you have is yourself.
Yeah.
It kind of strips everyone of the original wall that they've built up to come out for the night, whether it's makeup or whatever they try to kind of create that persona whenever they're out. It strips them of that, and it forces them to put all aside and focus on the words and what's being presented in front of you. And I think it's a very scary experience for many, including me, including Callan.
Callan.
But so how is it for you from a poet's perspective? I think that's quite interesting because
sharing my work.
Sharing your work and what's the future of your work? Where do you see yourself headed? Like, I think a lot of these questions might seem like maybe cliches from your standpoint.
No. It's not. Sorry. Go on.
No, that's
it.
No, it's not that they're cliche. I mean, it's just like that. Yeah, like I said, it's like when you're talking about poetry, you're usually talking to another poet, and then you're usually talking about like the very like technical aspects of your craft or like whatever you're talking like with a colleague like yeah. But when you're talking to like people who don't like who aren't as involved in poetry or like who probably like don't even read that much poetry because like let's get real, nobody really reads that much poetry except for poets themselves. So it's like it's interesting to like think about these questions because like nobody ever asked me these kinds of questions.
We're here today.
On the other hand,
usually they're asking like it's like blah blah blah, like what about this line, like explain how this
that's
line
so
works.
cool.
And it's like and like those are the conversations I usually have like on a very technical level, craft-based level.
So imagine we're poets.
asking you the heavier questions. Yeah.
These are like bigger, more rounded questions. Yeah, it's interesting to think about. What is my goal? With poetry. What my goal?
Would you like to publish a book or?
Well, yes. I mean, like I have a manuscript now that I'm hoping to get out soon. This thing is like Oh my god, I don't think I was wearing it correctly. Because now it's way more comfortable.
Oh, really?
Like, there's a hole in the middle that your ear is supposed to go in, right?
Yes.
Like, it was squashing my ear. My
Damn.
little ear.
Welcome
I don't.
back.
The thing is, I don't even think the camera can see it, but she's actually wearing headphones.
I know.
I
I can
am.
hardly
It's
see
so
it.
beautifully covered by
Yes.
your
Yeah.
crown and your
Wow.
hair. Mm.
It was disturbing my aesthetic.
So let's go back to the question.
My goals.
For the third time. Fourth time.
My goal. I think yes. Like I'm working on a bunch of projects now. So actually, like I'm translating like this novel from Chinese, by this amazing young Chinese author. Honestly, she's gonna change the game. So I'm translating that book, and I'm also working on my own projects, like about the Pacific coastlines, about kind of like mapping the Pacific coastlines with poetry. So like traveling up them, like writing poems about these specific like areas and landmarks, and like in a way like
I
honoring
call
them.
this
And
Paris. No.
What?
Is that a reference to babes?
Just imagine you traveling around and putting like a town's name to each poetry you'd write down, kind of.
Oh, it's kind of like that, but
Yeah.
it's more about it's kind of like that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really.
Mm.
I don't. It's not. It's about the coastline, like where the land meets the water, like those just like that distinct middle. Yeah, because as you know, like Japan's coastline is very fragile, and like on the Pacific Ring of Fire, it's like there's two sides in Canada, one in Canada and one in Japan, and I moved from one side of like the Pacific Ring of Fire to the other side. And like a couple years ago, I started kind of like scrutinizing this and was like, there's something about the Pacific Ocean, something about these coastlines that has an inherent innate poetry. So I really wanted to travel along them and like honor them, but also kind of like and pay tribute to them, but also like preserve them, because one day they'll inevitably be destroyed.
Right.
Yes.
There's only at one point in time where the coastline is going to look exactly like this. I want to have these poems so that there will always be a reference point for how they looked and how they were and how they made people feel.
That's so fucking cool.
So yeah,
Coastline.
it's
That's so cool.
and I got a grant from the Canadian government to do it. So
Wow.
so I was working on that. I drove up the Honshu coast with my friend Fair, like in January, and when I travel back to Canada, I'm gonna do the Vancouver Island side of the coastline.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really
And that will be a
beautiful.
collection of different places you visited around the coastline, and
Yeah.
the poetry that came up to you being in that
Yeah.
place.
It's gonna be an experiment, or like it's gonna be a culmination of like cartography and like
What's that?
the science of maps.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The science of maps, and like but like cartography without the traditional like elements, but with poems instead. So it's like the poems themselves are maps.
Cool.
Yeah,
Super
and-
duper cool.
Yeah. And then
I'm
and
so
then
into it.
working. So hopefully that'll be a book. When I'm finished with it, I think it's gonna take fucking ever.
I'm so into it.
And then I'm also like I have my other manuscript of just like regular poems. Yeah, that's like it's ready to go, but
So live like what you did at Love Hotels, live poetry isn't necessarily your choice of
no.
Just
exhibiting.
No, actually, I'm like I feel like I'm very much a poet of the page. Like I really like that. I know it's frustrating because poetry is an oral form. Like it's made to be read out loud, and it's made to be like heard, and it's like that's the origin of poetry itself, is like the lyric. But for me, like I'm really attached to the page, and I feel like my poems especially, they work on the page better than they do in voice. Just because it's like, and the poems that I read at Love Hose, I picked those specifically because I felt like they would work actually, like
Yeah.
when read out
so
loud.
good.
Right.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Did we meet her at Love Hotels too? How did we meet?
I think I think
Don't know.
so.
Mutual friends.
Yeah.
What brought you to the
Met her
Japan.
at Fashion Tech Week.
No, I think I knew you before then. Oh no, you and I, we met before before Robin and I
we
met.
properly spoke at FTW outside.
Oh really?
You were FTW. You were with
What team?
Idris.
Idris.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Oh, we spoke and and you were like,
You were like, she's scary, right?
that doesn't
We all
sound
thought
like me.
each other is scary or something, I think. I think
No,
we talked
well,
about
I
this.
mean, I'm not scary.
Yes, you are. Despite the flowers.
No, guys, I'm bitchy. It's different.
Yeah.
It's your stature and your poise that's just so inspiring and amazing. And I think when I met you at FTW,
Oh my god. What is
2019.
when I met you outside, because I it was like it was someone you've seen around town. Like, how can she go without? How can you walk around without noticing this gorgeous woman with the flower crown and the nails? Like, everyone knows who she is, but it's like, who really are you? And then we spoke, and the thing is, you're so highly educated, you're so well spoken, you do poetry. There's so many things about you that gives you such a high credibility of just being a fabulous person
thank
that
you
I
so
think
much.
can be a little bit scary for people that feel like they can't even reach that level. And it was the same for me meeting you.
Oh
The first one was like, I want to be her best friend. How can I? Will
Best
she like me? How long
my
would
God,
she like
she's
me
pissed.
for?
No. We're good.
We're good.
She's gonna shake me in
That's
the
funny.
parking lot
No,
later.
You still have some way to go if you want to be best friend. That's what I'm thinking. You're not that there
Loads
yet.
of time
Yeah,
left.
babe, get in line.
And it's like, how long will I know her before she
Inevitably
Recognizes
disappears into the
me.
Yeah, before she gets tired. And it's funny because you said that to me the other day at a picnic. You were like, it's not about how long, it's not about how much, what did you say? It's not about how much I like you, it's about when will I get bored of you or something like that.
Oh my god, yes.
That's the truth of the matter.
I think there's a Gemini in me.
Oh my god, you're Gemini.
Yeah.
Scary.
I don't know. I feel like I'm friendly.
I don't know.
You are friendly.
Sometimes
have-
Gemini point it.
Yeah, I feel like I do think of myself as friendly, and I do think
If
of
you
myself
make the
like,
cut, you're friendly.
yeah, I
Once
think
you're
I'm
in the circle.
yeah, I also think I'm hyper judgmental, and that's why.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually, I mean, this is like a personality flaw, obviously, but like if I make the distinction that you're not someone
Worthy.
that you're not someone that's like, you're not someone that I'm particularly interested in, then I'm not going to pretend like that you are.
Right, until proven else.
Yeah, of course. And I like to think that like it's like there's lots of people in my life who I really, really value and who I like misjudged at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you, babes. I'm just kidding. I liked you from the beginning. I liked you from the beginning.
It's fine. It's fine.
Your mouth is saying it's fine, but your eyebrows are saying like
I feel
I
like that's
poisoned your
also
wine.
like we all have that in it, but we don't actually. So she's like
Say it
very
out
real with
loud.
it.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
still be nice.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and stress ourselves out.
And stress ourselves out. And then,
You don't. Yeah. You
we're the
just-
major pussies
Yeah.
in the bunch.
But then,
a sense.
but it works.
But it works.
I think it's because it's like I read something like a long time ago by this poet named Marianne Moore who like that really, really affected me, and she said, when you take my time, you are taking something that I had intended to use. And I really felt that, and I feel like it's like, you know, your time, like we tend to think of time like as somehow like
Never ending.
yeah, exactly, or flexible, but it's not. It's in these discrete parcels of minutes and like hours and days. You only have so many. So it's like when you spend time like trying to make someone feel good or like trying to make someone feel comfortable and they're not this sounds really selfish, but it's like
Reciprocating.
Spill it.
well, like they're just not bringing that much to the table. Then it's like why
Yeah.
like
yeah.
because there's so many things to occupy your time with. There's so many things to do, and there's so many people to like that are worth your time.
Unless that is your genuine interest to kind of dig deeper into the people that won't share that information with you, but you
Sure.
feel that there is a certain interest that could be like,
Yeah.
Or you're just maybe
explorable.
you'll just simply be surprised.
Yeah. And I
Just
have
treat others like how you want to be treated. You know,
I treat
have time
myself
for
with the
that.
same harshness as I do others.
Yeah, makes sense.
No, but I see the perspectives.
I think that's just, I mean, I'm not saying that this is the right
Yeah.
way to go about
Yeah,
being
yeah,
a person,
yeah.
and I think it's like, but I think, like, and if I worked in maybe any other field, like a more social field, I wouldn't be able to get away with it so much. Luckily, I work in, like, a very isolated, like,
What is
nature.
your... What
So-
do you do? Yeah.
Babe, I'm a poet.
I know. Yup.
I know, how do I pay the bills?
Right.
Well, I work as okay, so how do I make money? The truth is that I don't really.
Let's talk
Right.
about it.
The truth
We
is that I
wanna
don't
know.
really, and I know, I feel like people are really curious about this. How do I support myself? My lavish lifestyle. I have been really, really lucky in my life that I've always had like a really incredible support system around me. And I've also gotten by, like I said, it's like, you know, we get grants, like the magazines I work for, we get grants, we get like independent income like that are parceled out, not steadily, but like, you know, enough so that we get by and we can like we can pay our bills and things like that. In terms of like how do I live in Tokyo and not starve, is that like, you know, I have really generous people around me.
Nice. Build empire. The
What,
country.
what would you say for other people that are into poetry and wants to work full time as poets? What would they do in order to reach that? Is it possible to reach that stability, that financial stability as a poet?
Yes, I think so, but you have to really be good. You have to be good and you have to be lucky.
Yes.
Poetry is something that you can't get away without talent. You can't get away with it without talent. You need talent. Like, you can't get better at it
That's
by doing
hard.
it.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
you can't get better at it. Like,
Consistency doesn't mean shit.
no, it doesn't. You need talent.
That's rare. Usually consistency is like the key.
Yeah, usually,
Yeah.
right? Persistence,
Yeah,
things
Anyone
like
can
that.
sing.
yeah.
Can they?
Oh, that's what they say.
No.
Yeah, no, with enough training, you could.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, I took singing lessons back in the day. Like, classical singing lessons. Opera.
What? The laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming
That's
from
where it
within.
comes
The
from.
laugh comes from the
Oh my god, I thought I was gonna I was gonna kill the hero today, but it's But yeah, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that anyone can sing. And I don't, yeah, definitely not everyone can write poetry. I get a lot of submissions of poems that are, I'm just like, you have no talent.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I know, it's mean.
No,
But
no,
it's
no,
better
no,
that
it's
they
real.
know.
It's real.
No,
it's
no,
real,
So
it's
that
real,
they
it's
can
real.
get
Let
better
them know,
at
let them
something
know.
else. Like,
Yeah.
write prose. Prose is amazing. Write a novel.
No, that's why.
You'll make more
That's
money.
why I love you. It's this reality check that you give everyone, including yourself, constantly, and it's something that we're missing in today's society because it is so velvet coated by everything these days. Because we're
You know,
so
people are obsessed
afraid
with
of stepping.
self-care.
Very much so, and self-image, and we're so afraid of stepping on someone that might hurt someone's feeling because of something. Rather, just spill it out there, but
Do you
do
think
it.
so? I feel
But
like
wait,
everybody. Okay.
But,
Yeah, okay, go back.
but do it with a certain, from a certain standpoint, with a certain context.
Yeah.
Something that's kind of pre-thought in a sense, but still be that raw, be that honest, and I think it really serves a great purpose. And I
Yeah.
think that's the difference between what you mentioned earlier with that the work that is raw, that isn't what did we say? It's raw.
Reactive.
It's too reactive. You can be raw, you can be reactive, but you need to do it with a certain finesse, and you need to word it properly for people to kind of to get through to
Yeah.
other people. And I think you really have that talent, and that's something that I truly admire in you.
Thank you so much. That is so nice.
And you're
that.
not doing,
Yeah,
and it's
okay.
not for attention or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
People these days do it for attention, like
Exactly.
entitled and shit.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there are other ways that I get attention.
And the flowers.
Come to that. Yeah. Speaking of that,
Yeah. What?
the flowers.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Or can you? Or can
So
you not?
you're notoriously, you're locally famous for
my
the flower
God.
crown. You are the woman with the flower crown. Wherever you go, you always have it on.
Yeah.
What is
Where
it
did
about?
it begin?
Yeah.
Okay, actually, like, yeah, back home, like, I live in a very small city. I grew up in a very small city in Canada, in Victoria. And, like, I lived in Chinatown. I had this apartment in Chinatown. And, like, in Chinatown, there's, like, a lot of homeless people. Because, like, you know, if you're going to eat food out of the garbage, it should be Chinese food.
True. I get it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, like, one day I came out and I just had to like run across the street and get some groceries, and I
Someone
came out
had
without
made
a phone.
you a crown?
No. Well, oh my god, amazing. But no, like I wasn't wearing my crown, and a homeless guy shouted at me from across the street. He was like, "Lady, where are your flowers?" And I was like, and at that moment I was like, "Oh my god." Like,
Identity.
this is my identity. I don't think.
But why
I
would you
could
put it on
ever-
in the first place?
Right.
The
Where
time-
did it start?
It started when I was 10 years ago, almost more than 10 years ago now.
When
Yes,
I was 10
17.
years ago.
Poetry.
Don't.
The glass half full.
Babe, if
Yeah.
we're gonna go around correcting English,
No,
I
it's
am
lovely.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm trying to decipher. We're like, did she say something
10 years
complex?
ago. 10 years ago. About 10 years ago.
Okay.
It's around 10 years ago. Yeah. And yeah, obviously it's like, okay, because I'm hyper judgmental. I'm aware of how people judge me, and like from a very young age, I was really aware that there were a lot of factors that I could be judged by, like my race, and like the fact that I was, you know, kind of like I was always like loud, and I was always kind of like an obnoxious kid. But it's like, yeah, it's like when you're an immigrant, and that immigrant experience is so like it's so formative. It's like it informs like your entire like self-perception and at a certain age. And I was like, you know, like if people are going to judge me, and if people are going to judge me by something as like menial as race, I mean, this is not to say that race is menial, but it's like it's just a menial thing to judge someone by.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, for a long time I was like, oh, you know, like Shelly, the Chinese girl, like, or like Shelly, like, you know, she's a Chinese girl and she's hanging out with all the Chinese girls. I wasn't even hanging out with that many Chinese girls. But yeah, and I was like, and so one day it was kind of like, it became obvious to me that if I wanted to be judged by who I really was, then I would have to put a lot of effort into like establishing my appearance.
Right.
And so yeah, and then so it just like it built up like then, and like little by little, you know, like I've always been like somewhat interested in fashion. I've always wanted to be pretty. You know, I was always aware that like in high school I was ugly, so it's like, so I was always aware that like, you know, you're ugly, but like
I've been there.
We all are ugly in high school.
yeah, you're ugly, but you know, you're gonna get beautiful, like eventually.
Yes.
And yeah, and it's about like taking back control of like how people see you.
Right.
You can't ever control how people see you and know you fully. And like I said, like even right now, it's like with the flowers and with everything, it's like I think people very, very often have a mistaken perception of me. But this, I want people to see, it's like, oh, well, she's bold. And she has a personality probably, and she probably has some sort of like artistry, you know. And it's like, and more importantly, she's like, I want people to see, and I want to believe this about myself, that like I'm not compromising about who I am. Like I'm over the point where I'm like, oh well, like, you know, I'm gonna shrink, or like I'm gonna make myself smaller, or I'm gonna make myself quieter, like for the benefit of others. Over it. Yeah. So it's like, and that it's just not who I am. And I mean, I think it's like the ability to like change in like situations and like be a lot of different kinds of you is very useful, and I admire it in others, but I'm just like, it's not like I hate it. It exhausts me. Like the idea of having to like force myself into like another shape, another form. So yeah, I think that's why I do this.
Why flowers? Why a wreath?
Because I
Wreath?
mean,
Wreath. Crown. My bad. Crown. My bad. Right? Crown. It's a crown.
Queef.
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 oh
Why
my
the
God.
queef?
Oh, did I?
Yeah, why the crown? Why the wreath?
Oh my god, so many. Well, like it's beautiful.
Yes.
Like who doesn't
Yeah.
like flowers? I like botanics. I like how flowers change. Like I like how they come in a lot of different forms. They're very expressive things. They're symbols. But also 1970s Vogue, like Frida Kahlo, like
I mean,
maybe-
I'm just seeing Scandinavia.
yeah, I
Like
guess,
Sweden, that's what we do every summer.
Yeah, I didn't know about you guys until very recently.
But I mean, not
And Italy
that-
too. Italy, Italians wear these during graduation, I guess.
Really? That's so
Really?
Yeah, so
cool.
there's there's something like with flower, like a wreath of flowers in every culture because they're
For sure,
natural
for sure,
adornments.
yeah.
Before before people had jewelry or like accessories, presumably they used things that they could just find.
So how
forage.
do you wreath them yourselves? Yourself?
when you were 10 years ago, do you read them yourself?
Oh my god.
exciting,
There's
Lee.
like a rhythm to it as well. Put that to music. Yeah.
Wreath?
You-
What?
I do, I
Weave.
We make.
Yeah, I weave them. I make-
Yourselves? Yeah?
Yourselves?
Yourselves. Stop.
Stop. You're
You stop.
no
Do
one.
you do it yourself?
Yes, I do
How
it
many
myself.
do you have?
Oh my god, like 50.
Right?
A lot.
You have like a
In
wall
your
of them.
house?
Yeah, I have a lot. And I have more at home. Like in
Where
Victoria.
else? Oh, okay. Where else?
Sorry.
In your storage.
You're like Moira in Schitt's Creek. Another Canadian reference, though, with her wigs.
Oh, she has a lot of wigs.
Loads.
Yeah,
And they all have their own
a lot of people think I'm
names.
bald. Like
Really?
they think it's
Like,
they think
this
not
is-
only am I
Your
wearing
hair
this,
is
but
real, right?
Yeah, it's real. Yeah,
Oh, it's
guys,
like
my
connect-
hair is real.
And it's connected to the wreath. You take it off and
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
like
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
So funny.
I know, it's so funny. It's
Which
so
means that
funny.
all of your crowns would have the same wig on top of it because they're all like.
So.
Almost like thinking you gotta work and like step up your appearance or something, and then thinking of this. That's quite a.
But I mean, I think it's very representative of who I am. Like the flowers. I mean, it's flowers and the moon and the ocean.
You are very.
It's
You
like-
are the
you
moon
are,
and the ocean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
very blossom.
And all these things have like weird mystical natures that humans have embedded into them, and I feel like that it informs my poetry a lot, and also maybe to some extent my personality.
Why did you come to Japan?
I came to Japan for so many reasons, but I think most of it was just like at the base of it was that like I was bored, and I needed stimuli. I had always done a lot of my best writing in Tokyo.
Oh really?
Oh, yeah, I'd been in Tokyo before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd been traveling to Tokyo like for months, for how do I say this? I forgot how you say this. For a month or two at a time for several years in sequence. So I was very familiar. Well, not very.
Sporadically.
No.
No.
It was a. I mean, I guess it was it was regular.
What
It
is
was
that?
more regular than it was sporadic.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so I loved it, and I love Tokyo. People get obsessed with Tokyo when they come here for
I
the first
know,
time. They
yeah.
get obsessed.
Yeah.
Like, there's something about how everything works, the order, and like the cleanliness, like the
Yeah. No, yeah.
the infrastructure of everything. It just works, and you're like, and yes, and so I fell in love with it. Like most.
How
people
long you been here?
It's for just almost 4 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you still love it, or are you
still
like
love it.
really?
I still love it. I know everything that's wrong with it.
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
no
yeah.
longer like when I first moved here and when I was visiting here on vacation, I would wake up every day and be like, oh my god, guys,
Yeah.
Tokyo. You believe this, guys?
Ooh.
My Tinder date from the night before.
Plural. Yeah.
Yeah, my Tinder dates from the night before. Yeah. I only do 4 ways.
Right.
Cut this out.
Stay. Here to stay.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I no longer wake up like that, but I'm still. I no longer wake up with 3 men.
You're lonelier now.
Very lonely. Guys.
Would you like to live here, like settle down here though?
Settle down? Probably no. And, you know, I think I'm leaving because I realized that, like, I'm not, like, it's not the right place for me. Even though I love it. But it's not right for me. Like, there's something that Tokyo is not providing that I desperately need from, like, where I live. I think people expect too much out of the places, like, they live to, like, provide things for them. But definitely, like, Tokyo is a city of a lot of, it's just a very conservative city.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Yeah,
you know, and it's really hard. It's really hard to, like, to do the things that you want here when you're working in the arts or when you're working in the creative industries. Yeah. So I'm leaving, and but I love it. I still love it.
Do you go back to China a lot?
I used to go back to China a lot because I run a literary magazine in China. So I used to go back to. Yeah.
Did you want to show something?
Oh my god, I should have brought my magazines, but yeah, like oh my god, I should have brought my magazines, but I didn't. I'm so hungover this morning. I could barely bring both sets of eyelashes.
This should have come with one.
I know.
Yes, you would have loved that.
And half the wig.
Half a wreath.
Yeah, half the face.
So what do you have for us?
So this is actually this is a book that me and my photographer friend made. Her name is Alum. And we made this together when I was on the precipice of leaving Tokyo. Like honestly, like I've been trying to leave Tokyo for months now.
Really?
Yeah, or I was supposed to leave like in March of last year.
Really?
Yeah, and then I kept pushing it, like my visa, kept pushing my visa, everything, like, blah, blah, blah. And basically, now I don't even have a passport, so I can't leave. Anyway, long story. But basically, I made this as a kind of way to, like, say goodbye to my friends. And, like, this city that has, at the end of the day, has given me so much. So it's a book of, like...
The city.
Hey, and now the non-ASMR version is called "The City Answers Loudly."
I'll just read it to myself.
The name is
"The City Answers Loudly: A Question Asked in Secret."
Whoa! Mind blowing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it's her photographs and it's my poems, and they're all mostly like poems that I wrote while I was in love in Tokyo.
Read one right now.
You should read one.
You should read one right now. Yeah.
And one of them is about watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Love. What about Flying Dagger?
Oh my god. No poem could do that movie justice. That poem is that movie is poetry. Yes. Oh, I read this one. I read one of them actually, like at Lovehotels before. Okay, I'll read a short one. Should I start?
Yeah.
The compulsion to find faces in all things is a living curse, seeking visions from between the pines, counting figures from the outlines of glass towers, which are the first to pink with dawn. Everything is terrifyingly human while walking alone in Tokyo and being tracked by the sound of laughing, coating the night windows thickly, shadows sheening bright as oil. In various moments shredded from the collapsing year, trade the light of being for the light of remembering. Aren't we intimately familiar with the limits of reason? Shapes in the darkness which look like a woman you love, not being a woman you love, and getting lost after all this time of living here, because yellow is suddenly dimming as one passes it. There are only small stars tonight, and even they make language.
Do you clap?
Have you guys ever seen I've never really seen anyone do this, but
What? That's what they do?
Yeah, poetry audiences do this a lot because clapping is really disruptive.
But you're done, right?
I know, but it's really loud. And usually the atmosphere is really, like, solemn.
Until you laugh.
I never laugh. I'm a professional.
Oh, that's
That was
beautiful,
nice.
though.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so like it's a dialogue between her photographs and my poems.
Are you selling this or?
Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch, and yeah, there you can DM me.
Okay.
Where am I
It's like a
looking?
DM
me
kind of on the
for a
streets
copy.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or like
So basically,
or
this
find me.
This is a collection of poems that you have written spending time in Tokyo
Yeah, and being in love.
and being in love in
And being
Tokyo.
in love in Tokyo. Tokyo is a
That's
really
interesting.
wonderful place to be in love in.
What?
I mean, you don't get to do it that often because obviously.
I know
It's
it's,
Tokyo,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you're gonna move to Tokyo, you should know the dating pool here is shallow.
Yeah.
It's very shallow, but
shallow.
when it happens,
It's-
It really happens.
Fire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you would think.
Oh, do tell.
No, we do actually have a question about who's your type, asked from Lena Liolik
Oh my
from
God,
our
really?
Instagram.
Yeah, let's
ask
let's
you
That's
who's
it.
my type.
That's correct.
Let's explain it. So we posted on on the Love Host story. We always post like, do you have any questions for the podcast people
Right.
coming up? And we made a little selection.
What's my
And
type?
Yeah.
one of them is
I don't have a type, guys.
Yeah, though that's the question, yo. How? Your type.
What's your
That's
type?
all she said.
Oh, my type?
Had a chance to date in Japan and would have. What the fuck? I don't know what she means, but basically, I think Lena is asking what
I
is
think
your
Lena
type.
has a crush on me.
I think so too.
Lena. Maybe in the next life.
What
My type?
Yeah.
yeah.
This is very hard, but I like men who respect women. Yeah, which is rare. Like
Right.
really respect, like in respect in a way
I
that's
agree.
not like
I
that's
agree.
not superficial, but like respect in a way like that's like like they don't talk over you, they don't belittle you, like they don't like assume that you don't know what you're talking about. Like they give you room to be yourself. They don't like force you to like adhere to their images of what a woman should be or what roles a woman should perform. Sounds like these things are all very basic, and I'm sure like a lot of the men in this world assume that they are that kind of guy. But I think like when you examine the behaviors of most men, you'll find that like they aren't actually this type of person, because
Right.
being this type of person in an inherently like misogynist world takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like the nature of men is to like to put themselves above women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, men are raised to like be like. So yeah. Anyway, a man who respects women, and also I don't know, someone who's intelligent in a way that's different than my intelligence. I
You
like.
want to learn from them.
Yeah. I want to learn
Yeah.
from them. I want someone who challenges me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. But how much do you like dumplings? Dumplings. My bad. It's a dumpling puppy. How much does she love dumpling puppy? Is that your friend?
It might be my friend. I love so much, babes. I miss it every day.
You heard her.
You
Is
heard
she
her here.
cold?
I-
Is she cold? She must be cold.
I'm fine.
She's fine. Robin
fine.
also asked, is she cold?
Yes.
I'm fine.
So,
I feel fine.
so there is this ongoing conversation of
Ongoing debate.
yeah, ongoing
Global
debate of. I mean, basically, the one layer you wear is your crown, and you are very lightly dressed.
Yeah.
I'm freezing over here.
Like
right
even if
now.
she's like layers on layers, it's still like layers of satin. And yet you would go to like Sapporo in the top of Hokkaido and like minus 35 degrees and
Yeah,
go like
I'm very
skiing
good.
in like a pink slip-on and that crown. And a lot of people might ask themselves, is she cold? The
Yeah.
answer is
No. Yes.
Oh.
But I hide it very well.
Yeah.
The cold is in your mind, guys.
right. It's like that guy
The
that
cold is in your mind.
the guy that what is it that climbed Mount Everest in underwear or something.
Me.
Oh.
I.
It is I.
Ah, it was you. Okay, got it. When you were 10 years ago.
I think. Wow. Let it go.
I'm gonna stick to it.
Play it out.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I think it's like I find it really unattractive when people look cold. like, you know when people are like huddling like this and like in the streets and they're like smoking and they want to like I hate that. I don't like. So it's like even when I'm cold, like I don't. I try not to show it.
That's gangster. I like
Yeah.
it. I like it.
What about like from the other side of the grass field? What about if they look really really hot, like really warm,
Even worse.
like sweaty,
Yeah, I mean,
smoking a cigarette?
they look really sweaty smoking a cigarette. Where are we?
Like it's winter.
It's winter.
Yeah.
It's winter in Tokyo.
Yeah.
It's winter in Tokyo. And they look really sweaty.
No, but you say like when they look cold and they're like that, so you'd rather just pretend like you're not. So gyakuni on the other side, what if they like look really hot?
No, I mean,
Is
just
that-
look normal. Okay, is
Oh,
that
okay.
possible?
Okay.
just like look like you're
Okay,
happy.
so it's
with
not
your body
necessarily about
temperature.
the being cold thing. It's just the fact that just stand up for your.
Yeah, like
for your
don't be
body
a
heat.
victim to the elements. Like just like yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
yes.
funny.
I just yeah. I
Don't
know.
burn. Don't freeze.
Yeah.
Look
Don't-
good.
Yeah,
Look
look
good.
good. Look comfortable. Look comfortable.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. I hate it when people look uncomfortable. I think it's really unattractive.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. It's true.
Beautiful. Okay. This has been fantastic. No, really, really
Do
fun.
you have any questions? I don't
For
think
you
She
guys?
probably doesn't, but yeah. She don't give a fuck.
No, babe. I knew it.
Somehow I knew it.
How was it? How was I?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
A plus.
It's
Who was the worst podcast guest you guys ever had?
I know. The
Okay.
worst
you-
podcast guest we ever had was us two. The
I
first
knew you were gonna
episode.
say such a
Episode
boring
1.
answer.
Episode 1 when us. Well, it's my
Trying
answer.
to be
Well, no,
nice.
besides you guys.
Besides
Next.
Right?
you guys,
Yeah.
then I don't
Give me
know.
something scandalous. No, they've always been amazing.
Tell you off camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me off camera.
Most of them have been interesting because
Yeah,
they've
really
been
though.
providing information in a certain field that we're not familiar with. And I think what's really interesting with the Love Hotels podcast is that we have so many artists that perform or sell or do something at Love Hotels, the events, but we rarely get a chance to dig deeper into their brains and see what they're really about. So
Yeah.
there's like, regardless of whether the person is able to like speak up in like a well presentable way or not, everyone tends to bring something to the table that's like genuinely
I
interesting.
think everybody is so interesting to me personally, and maybe to you. I don't know.
That's what I just said.
I doubt that it's interesting to everybody
To people
watching.
listening.
Yeah, but just genuinely, I'm just
I
fucking
don't
interested
know.
in everybody.
I think we've been interesting.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Let us know in the comments.
Yes. Press subscribe.
I've like always secretly wanted to be a YouTuber.
Okay, this is your start.
Did it? Yeah, did it.
Hit like and subscribe. Turn on
Oh, she
notifications.
could totally do it. She
Yeah,
could
did
totally
it.
do it.
I could not do it. No, I could not do it. I could
Totally.
not. But like I've always wanted
We'll
to.
introduce you to our crew.
To our team.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much for coming on
Thank
today.
you.
It's been
been so
pure
fun.
joy and really interesting getting to dig
Yeah.
deeper into what you do.
Thank you, babes.
Anyone that wants to figure out what she does or go deeper into that, we'll add links to whatever Instagram or webpage that you have available. And if you're interested in purchasing this gorgeous
Poetry
collection,
book.
poetry book collection, hit her DMs.
Yeah.
Thank you very
My
much.
DMs
for
are
joining
always
us.
open.
Yes. Thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you,
us today.
babes.
Thank
we
you.
love you, love
And we'll
house.
see
Yeah.
you soon.
So fun.
Gotta
Bye
pee,
bye.
gotta pee.
Bye.
Bye, mwah.